Away we go. We are officially live in all facets of the world.
Right.
What's up, everybody?
What's up?
Welcome to episode 202 of the Earth and Works podcast.
I'm Jay.
And I am the brainless one.
Obviously. Yeah. Always.
Always and forever. Very interesting week that we have to discuss in professional wrestling.
I would say in general, the wrestling world has been anything but disinteresting lately. I mean, sometimes the shows are a little disinteresting, but what's been going on? Holy crap.
We had a huge thing happen this week with a certain former WCW legend being on a certain wrestling show. We are going to get into that a little bit. We had NXT War Games last Sunday, and I as a whole, I know I've said a lot of things about NXT takeovers. I like to dive into that a little bit.
Sure.
For me, it was a little bit. It wasn't as. There's been definitely better takeovers than this past Sunday, but not to say that I was disappointed, because, like I've said to you on numerous occasions, I would still watch a bad NXT takeover over good WWE main roster pay-per-views any day.
Absolutely.
So we'll get into that a little bit. And just a bunch of other news and notes that are happening in the world of professional wrestling that we'd like to get into, including some shit that's going down in WWE that I really want to touch base with. It's tism time for the brainless one. So we're going to get into that. But we're going to start off a little bit differently than we normally would today. Well, not really differently, but we've done it before, and today is no excuse.
Doing it again.
We are going to have to start on a somewhat somber note. It's somebody who has definitely made more of an impact in Hollywood than they did inside a professional wrestling ring. But needless to say, they still have ties to WWE, so we need to say it. And this one really
bummer.
It got me good. So Thursday, we found out that former WWE wrestler who was also in the movie Friday,
also in No Holds Barred, if we want to get it with the wrestling reference,
who also made appearances in The Dark Knight. He also made appearance in the Austin Powers movie, the Goldmember one. And he was also the president in one of my personal favorite movies, The Fifth Element.
Yes.
Tiny Lister, a.k.a. Zeus, a.k.a. Debo, passed away at the age of 62 on Thursday, apparently from coronavirus. For me, this one definitely hurt because Friday is definitely one of my favorite movies of all time. And for me, Debo is one of the greatest villains in movie history. He did appear at SummerSlam, I think it was 89.
I believe you are correct. Him and the Macho Man
teamed up against Hulk Hogan and Brutus Beefcake. I want to say he was at the Survivor Series.
He was at the Survivor Series.
God damn, I'm good sometimes. Oh!
And actually, later on in 1996, he showed up in WCW. I forget exactly what his name was. It was like Z something.
The Z-Man?
No, that was already taken. That was already taken.
Yeah,
but
I was being an asshole.
I know. So, yeah. All right, Chris Brown saying that they're speculating it was a heart attack brought on by the coronavirus.
Fair enough. And the only reason I said the coronavirus is because there was a report that came out that he was due to the coronavirus. So I've been wrong before, and I wouldn't be surprised if I was wrong again. Either way, it was very sad to see. I want to say it's Timmy or Tommy Lister.
Right,
Tommy Lister.
That's right, Lloyd. Z Gangsta.
Who was also, like I said, Tiny, who was known as Devo and all that stuff. So very sad day for the brainless one on Thursday. I hate starting off the show like that because
you know, I mean, for my childhood, I mean, like I went to No Holds. Like I didn't go to the theater a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the theater to see No Holds Barred with my friends. Some of the worst acting, some of the worst writing ever. but Zeus,
The worst.
exactly. But Zeus was absolutely like captivating in that movie. He felt like quite literally an unstoppable monster. And like when he came on to like WWF TV back then, and he would do the thing where he was just like, and then whenever he no-sold Hulk Hogan, the only other person that got away with that was The Undertaker. But there was this thing that he specifically did the thing where he wrenched the neck and then and then did that, and then Hogan did the thing where he flopped around kind of like a fish, and then like he did the I'm dead, I've got one more flop in me before I stopped moving, and then like Hogan had the neck thing on, but like my brother and I used to do that move to each other. A couple times we did it. Let's just say it wasn't kayfabe, and like our neck was like, ow. If you really did that move, it freaking hurts. But yeah.
I remember when Bray Wyatt, when he returned as The Fiend at SummerSlam a couple years ago against Finn Balor, it looked like he was going to have that move as part of his repertoire.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, if you went and snapped somebody's neck, you don't even need to hit him with like the mandible claw or the Sister Abigail, whatever the hell else it is. I mean, you just broke the dude's fucking neck.
Right.
But
what's going on, Mike? Thanks for tuning in.
But anyway, it was still a big loss to lose Tom Lister this week. I was very sad because I fucking love Debo.
I love at the end of Fifth Element when Bruce Willis's mom hangs up on him when he's like, "No, ma'am, I'm the president." Yeah, right. And yeah,
a lot of goats in that movie, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chris Tucker, Bruce Willis, Debo,
Gary Oldman. Who was later played by what's his name in AEW, right?
Yes, Jimmy Havoc. But anyway, R.I.P. to a legend. Very sad day. It was a very, very sad day in America.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's turn up the Jets a little bit. We'll get into some wrestling.
The Jets are 0-12, right? After that great performance Sunday, you said Jets. I just had to say it. Like the Jets snatched defeat out of the jaws of victory on Sunday.
The Jets losing the way they did is the most Jets thing that could have happened to the Jets.
It was so good.
And it's like, and I remember seeing a post because I guess because they're doing the Walter Payton. Since you brought up the Jets, I had to bring it up now. Since they're doing the Walter Payton Man of the Year award, which every team gets a representative for all the stuff they do on and off the field. And the Jets representative this year doesn't even play for the Jets. And everybody's like, you all want to sit there and talk about how bad the Browns are and how dysfunctional of a franchise they are. They're still not the Jets.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I think that's pretty accurate.
Hey, so Mike wants to say, what's the deal with Vince wanting Keith Lee to go back to the PC for more training? Has he lost his mind? The dude can wrestle. I don't know what Vince is thinking. I don't think Vince knows what Vince is thinking sometimes. But I know this is something you really wanted to get into. So let's hit it, man.
Start. So last night I was reading about the fact that Vince McMahon was planning on sending some of the bigger dudes, most notably Keith Lee and Otis Dosovich, down to the Performance Center to get some more training in how to be better wrestlers. Now, and I looked at the list of the wrestlers that they sent down there, and it's like Otis. It's like, yeah, Otis is a little rough around the edges, but Otis is still serviceable inside the ring. I actually enjoy watching Otis, and we love Otis Dosovich. Dabba Kato, yeah,
you can tell that he's green.
Yeah.
And Mace,
who is also known as
was that Thornton? That's not.
No, that was the guy who was on the announcement.
Yeah, Madden.
Yeah, Dio Madden. He's going to be going down there, as well as the bodyguard for AJ Styles, who I really don't know the name of. Which I can understand. Dio Madden really didn't have a lot of time inside a wrestling ring, and he's got a little rough around the edges. So yeah, I understand that one. Dabba Kato, absolutely understand that, and I understand the bodyguard for AJ Styles. Otis Dosovich. I mean, that's pulling hairs trying to figure that one out. Keith Lee, though. I mean, really?
So one thing that's been brought up in chat, and I think I kind of agree with it, it's probably Vince wants him to lose weight. I don't think it has anything to do with wrestling ability. It's just, I mean, I have nothing against this, but he looks like a fat guy. But he moves very well for a guy who looks like a fat guy.
He's a 300-plus pounder that moves like a gazelle.
But I remember years ago, Vince did a similar thing with Mark Henry and the Big Show, where he sent them down to OVW to get more work. And I know Big Show was like super pissed. He took it as an insult, and I think Mark Henry did too, but he just wasn't as vocal about being pissed off about it. And I think both have actually later said, yeah, it lit a fire under our ass, and it was probably the right thing to do. But maybe that's just it with Keith Lee. Vince wants him to look better, and hopefully not. I mean, Cassius Ohno's not there anymore, so he doesn't. He won't be learning under the Cassius Ohno tree of how to get in shape to get your push. But one thing I'll have to say, though, usually I love WWE documentaries, and they did one specifically on Keith Lee that I watched. I honestly, this was one of the first ones. I was not a huge fan of it. For me, just for me,
Mm-hmm.
Keith Lee came off as somebody who had an extremely high opinion of himself. And all his answers, or almost every time he was speaking, it sounded as if he was answering like a college term paper. Like, I don't know. I just didn't like it very much. And I don't know if it's a combination of like, maybe Vince didn't love that, doesn't like the attitude or the feeling of like, Keith Lee, I'm doing these great and good things, and I've done so many great things, and maybe Vince is like, I'm going to humble that son of a bitch.
You can think about it, though, because remember last year, it was a little more than a year ago when they had Survivor Series last year, and they did the thing where it was Raw, SmackDown, and NXT going up against each other.
Yeah.
Keith Lee had that showing and that performance in the Survivor Series, and everybody was like, "Oh, Keith Lee was, NXT might have won, but Keith Lee was the real winner. Him and Rhea Ripley and all that stuff." And there was all this talk about like what Keith Lee's going to do once he gets to the main roster and everything. And he fights at the Royal Rumble, and him and Brock Lesnar had that moment at the Royal Rumble and everything. And it's like now he's on the main roster, and they made a big to do about it. They took the NXT title off of him. They took the North American Championship off of him. The dude was on top of the world in NXT, and then they bring him up to the main roster. They take his song away, and now they're like, all right, no, now we got to.
And I mean, they did give him a shot as far as like they put him in there with Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre. So they didn't put him.
He beat Randy Orton clean.
Yeah.
And I think Keith Lee has the potential to really be a star here in WWE. I think like you said, his attitude definitely needs to change a little bit because I kind of think about.
Well, check out the documentary. Like, if you watch the documentary again, I feel like it seems like everybody loves him, but the way he came across just seemed like, again, full of himself and was giving college term paper answers to things. So, as far as all this goes, though, like, Keith Lee obviously had a bunch of moments, not just Survivor Series. He got to share the ring for several minutes with Brock Lesnar during Royal Rumble last year. It feels like an eternity ago because of coronavirus and all the crap that's been going on. But, like, Brock doesn't work with who he doesn't want to work with.
Right. Oh, I know.
And he worked with Keith Lee, and Keith Lee did not look, overmatched.
Right.
So
Mike actually chimed in and made a point. Supposedly, from what I've heard, Bruce Pritchard and Kevin Dunn are telling Vince they don't see money in Keith Lee, and apparently Vince is starting to have the same exact feeling towards him. All right, first of all, on that comment, Kevin Dunn's not going to see any money in anything he can't build into a fucking dam. And Bruce Pritchard can't see money in anything because his head is so far up Vince's ass that all he sees is fucking Vince's colon. So the fact that the two of them, I mean, ever since Bruce Pritchard took over, this has been the dumbest thing they've done. It's stupid. Like I don't think he knows what the fuck he's doing. He really is not in the right position to be in. They screwed everything up with Paul Heyman. They should have just had Paul stay in the position. They should have just kept Eric Bischoff. But it is what it is. Vince doesn't want people who are going to give him good ideas. Vince is going to want people who are going to kiss his ass and tell him, yes, Vince, that's exactly what you should do. It's such good shit, Vince.
Right. But, hopefully for all these talents, it does end up being a motivating thing and, make them go to the next level. But while we're bringing up people that, are being sent up down because they're bigger guys and being dangerous in the ring, why isn't Nia Jax part of this?
And it's funny too because you could tell with Otis, because somebody actually did mention it, and I have noticed that Otis is a little clunky in the ring. Otis is still developing, and Otis is still young. Otis still has a long career ahead of him. I thought that it's a whole other bag of issues I'm just going to bring up later on in the podcast, but Keith Lee had a 5-star match no more than 3 years ago against Donovan Dijakovic.
He's had several more what I would consider close to 5-star matches with him since.
Yeah, I don't the whole Keith Lee thing doesn't make any sense. I understand and I want to say it was Lloyd that brought up that it's the Performance Center isn't just for wrestling. It's for other aspects. Like you said with Mark Henry and the Big Show, they wanted them to get into shape. That's why they sent them down to OVW back in the day. Now they're going to be, now they have the Performance Center, and we've seen what the Performance Center looks like now because of the coronavirus. We're getting a lot more shows down there, so we can see what it's like there. I would love to go down there, and personally, I would love to see the inside of the Performance Center because I think that would be just an incredible atmosphere to witness as a wrestling fan because it's the closest we've gotten to the power plant that WCW had back in the day. And, Triple H, who came from the power plant, knew that was, I'm calling it right? It's the power plant. And Triple H, who did come from the power plant when he was Terra Rising in WCW and kind of just molded that into what the Performance Center has. And I think it's great. And these guys can all learn this stuff. But Nia Jax on a week-to-week basis is terrible in the ring. And I keep saying it because I keep going back to when we first started this podcast, when they did that initial brand split, when they took Nia Jax and they called her up to the main roster, and they took Braun Strowman and took him away from the Wyatt family, and they basically both kind of just they were paralleled from that point on because Braun Strowman kind of just started doing his own thing, and Nia Jax did her own thing. And it's as the time has passed and the years have gone by, Braun Strowman keeps getting better and better in the ring. Braun Strowman used to be like a one-trick pony when he was first starting out because all he used to do was just railroad people and then just slam them and then the match was over. Braun Strowman actually looks really solid in the ring. I actually enjoy watching Braun wrestle. Nia Jax, for some weird reason, has gotten worse in the ring. She is the worst wrestler I've ever seen in my entire life. And I grew up with the Great Khali. I grew up with El Gigante / Johnny Gonzalez. I've seen Nails wrestle. I've seen, who else was a shitty wrestler? Hold on.
Ron Zombie.
Ron Zombie was another shitty wrestler. There's a reason why that man has made a career down in NEW, Northeast Wrestling. But it's over the years, I've seen such shitty wrestling, and she's the worst. She really is the worst. Goldberg was not the thing about Goldberg was WCW, and it's actually, and Lloyd, I'm glad you brought it up because that was actually going to be part of my next thought too, because Jay mentioned documentaries. But Goldberg, WCW built Goldberg around his strengths. And I know I've talked about how I loved Goldberg as a kid because I fucking love squash matches. It's one of my favorite things. Squash matches and tag team wrestling are my two favorite things in wrestling. And I enjoyed Goldberg and the way that they built him. And yes, when they put him in that match with William Regal and you saw all his flaws, they're like, all right, we can't do this anymore. He can't wrestle. All he's going to do is just go out there hit a couple of spears and some clotheslines, hit the jackhammer, 1, 2, 3, Goldberg wins. And I love that shit. I love Goldberg in that spot.
And he was perfect. Again, I love the match he had with Brock at WrestleMania 33. Like, that is what Goldberg is and should be.
Same thing with Dolph Ziggler at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
A
couple years
ago. I enjoyed that. And Dolph Ziggler sold the shit out of those fucking spears.
I bet that's what Edge's spear looked like at Royal Rumble. Thanks, Kevin Dunn.
A man who will never be in our Hall of Fame, by the way.
He could be in the Hall of Shame. The Hall of Brainless?
The Brainless Hall of Shame?
Yeah, because, I mean, we have the good, bad, and the brainless, so he could be forever enshrined in the brainless.
Oh, believe me, Jay, he would be the first inductee, too. And you know what? Vince's old, rusty, dusty, retarded carcass would be in there as well.
Yeah.
But Lloyd, since you did bring up Goldberg, WWE has announced that they're going to have their a documentary on the streak of Bill Goldberg. And my favorite part was, because I was looking at it a little bit as I was sending out the tweet that I send out every episode, and they showed the top 5 matches of the streak. Number 5 was his debut match when he beat Hugh Morris. Is that supposed to be funny?
What?
Is that supposed to be humorous? What? Number 4 was when he beat the Giant at one of their pay-per-views.
Yeah.
I think
that might have been Halloween Havoc.
It might have been Halloween Havoc. And when he beat the Giant, I'm still impressed with the fact that Goldberg got Big Show up like he did.
Right.
And just lifted him up, and I was like, holy crap. Because that's not
easy.
Obviously,
like, he's getting help from the Giant, a.k.a. the Big Show, but, like, being able to get him up and hold him up, you need to be able to hold him no matter how much he's being helped. And
then the third one on there was when he beat Raven for the United States Championship on Nitro.
Yeah.
One of the biggest moments. That was when he took out Raven's entire flock before he beat Raven.
That crowd went berserk.
Never seen a television title, or I'm sorry, United States title match end that way, where the people went nuts like that. Number 2 was when he beat Diamond Dallas Page, and I think it was Bash at the Beach, if I'm not mistaken. And then the number 1 victory of the streak for Goldberg was when he beat Hulk Hogan for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship at the Georgia Dome in Atlanta, Georgia, on Nitro. And what people said is the loudest they'd ever heard a building erupt for just a regular show.
Yeah. So speaking of Ziggler, Chris Brown brought up, check out our Facebook page at the FN Marks. But basically, Chris Brown posted a thing about basically Pat Patterson was a big fan of Dolph Ziggler and wanted him pushed more heavily. And the belief was that Vince didn't do it as a rib on Patterson. It's like, really? And like you the fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I did see that, Chris. I was pretty pissed off when I saw that. And it's like, I know that Vince likes to rib people a lot and all that stuff. It's one thing, to rib people by like doing jokes and and like messing with them and everything like that. But to take away somebody's livelihood as a rib is kind of stupid.
Well, it didn't take away his livelihood, but like his career could have been something more. I mean, how many times did it seem like he was on the cusp of getting to that next level and they never pulled the trigger with him?
And I know you always talk about how Dolph Ziggler cashing in the briefcase on
it was like, as far as fan reaction, I know that the Seth Rollins cashing in was the bigger moment because it was WrestleMania, but like that place erupted to they wanted him badly to win.
Yeah.
And it's just a shame that he ended up getting the concussion, and they used it as part of the storyline, but they took the title off him before he had a chance to do anything. So
I'm still going to go with Sheamus.
I know. Sheamus is your dude.
Sheamus, and then CM Punk the second time when he beat CM Punk the first time was actually a lot more monumental because if you think about it, SmackDown almost had both championships.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for the fact that Batista came out and beat up Edge with I think it was the World Heavyweight title, and CM Punk cashed in, I mean, Raw would have had 0 titles, which, in my opinion, they shouldn't have any titles anyway because the show sucks. I mean, it's the worst show on television. It really is. So,
The worst. So
I want to get John Raffio on this show, by the way.
right, we'll get him on a cameo video or something. But one of the other things was brought up this week. Goldberg was doing an interview, and he did call out Roman Reigns. So apparently, the match we did not get last year for WrestleMania, it appears that we may be getting this year at WrestleMania. I have zero problem with Goldberg making a couple of appearances and doing his thing in WWE, making some money, and I think having a spear versus spear match, I think it actually will work better this year as a match, since Roman Reigns is the tribal chief now, as opposed to it, kind of being face versus face. I think it's just a better dichotomy for the match, and as long as they keep the match short and sweet, I would say make it something better than what it was between he and Braun this year. I'm cool with that.
A lot of people are talking about how the fact that it's looking like Goldberg is going to be fighting Roman at WrestleMania this year. A lot of it has to do with the fact that they really wanted to do Roman Reigns versus The Rock at WrestleMania, but with The Rock's incredible schedule that he has with Hollywood and the risk that he would be taking if he went in there and wrestled and got hurt, because I think it was the one against Cena, the second one where he got hurt.
Yes.
And then that's what led to him, having that wonderful, one of my personal favorite WrestleMania moments was when him, Hulk Hogan, and Steve Austin were in the ring at WrestleMania 30. But it also led to The Rock beating Captain Wedgie in 5 seconds to have the quickest match of WrestleMania history.
Yeah.
Well, as much as I would love to see, because think about the magnitude that would be. Because right now, Roman Reigns is I've never seen anybody at this point. Roman Reigns is phenomenal. He is the biggest star of professional wrestling. And I'm not afraid to admit it. As somebody who has bashed Roman on many and many occasions.
Oh, yeah.
Roman is on another level, and setting him up with The Rock, the most electrifying man in all of sports entertainment. The Brody beating, pie eating, trailblazing, eyebrow raising, people's champ, The Rock. It would just be incredible, especially because Roman's had this whole thing with his family being a part of this, with beating up his cousin and having his cousin be a follower.
I thought of this earlier today, and it would just be my favorite way to kick off a feud like this. Mm-hmm. What if they had Rikishi run over Roman Reigns with a car, and then later on it's revealed that The Rock made him do it? So we get
for The Rock.
If we could get that again,
the people. Oh, that was one. That's still when The Rock.
Because it's Rikishi. Yeah. His son. It's his family.
I mean, hell, that could lead to Rikishi versus Roman.
And Roman could, that if they had that match, Rikishi should get squashed in that match.
Oh, absolutely.
But I want Rikishi to run him over, just so we can hear The Rock.
That would be phenomenal. And
The Rock made me do it.
The Rock, I did it for The Rock. I did it for the people.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's good. I like that idea. I really do. But since it looks like The Rock will not be participating at WrestleMania this year, I think that Goldberg would be a solid choice. Another thing that's been kind of floated around to fight Roman this year would be his cousin Jay.
Right?
They're saying that the perfect person that they could have turn face and build up to be like the next big face star is Jey Uso. And personally, I don't hate it. I like the Usos as a tag team. They're one of my favorites to watch. And, them and the New Day they've been the best rivalry in the tag team division over the last 10 years. Like, it doesn't matter how many times they wrestle, I enjoy watching them. Jey Uso has been killing it since this whole thing has happened. I wouldn't be opposed to him doing it either. And another one that keeps getting brought up, and why I was kind of surprised that the last thing we were talking about with the wrestlers going down to the Performance Center is one rumor that's been floating around for WrestleMania in the other title match is they were talking about doing Drew McIntyre versus Keith Lee versus Brock Lesnar. And like you said earlier, Brock's only going to work with who Brock wants to work with. And I know for a fact that Brock wanted to work with Drew McIntyre, which is why he put McIntyre over for the title. And I know he wants to work with Keith Lee. So that's another thing to kind of look at as a possibility. The whole thing about all these rumors coming out, and I kind of I mostly blame the internet. I partially blame Dave Meltzer. No, who am I kidding? I blame Dave Meltzer for everything. If I run out of toilet paper in the bathroom, I blame Dave Meltzer. If it snows, I blame Dave Meltzer. But anyway, I still want the element of surprise. I want to see something that nobody's expecting, because the person that everybody wants to see take out Roman Reigns is Big E.
Yeah. I mean, that could be a thing, but they would have to build him up or have him win at the Rumble and build him up after that.
But apparently, what I've heard about Big E is that there has been no discussions of Big E getting that kind of a push or ever getting a kind of push like that, which would make me wonder why did they break up the New Day in the first place?
Right. And WrestleMania is obviously several months away, but is Edge going to have his third match against Orton there, or could he be an opponent for Roman or Drew?
He's one of the guys I keep hearing as a name that's going to win the Royal Rumble this year.
So,
and I'd like to see Edge. I'd like to see Edge get the title one more time. I really would. It's going to be interesting to see going forward, because there's a lot of stuff that can happen, and it's only a month away. If you think about it, the Royal Rumble is the next pay-per-view after TLC next weekend.
Yeah.
And
also on your scheduling for next weekend, we are taking the weekend off because I am moving, and
I am going to be helping him move.
So we will not be able to do the show. We will probably post our predictions for the show somewhere.
Maybe we'll do a live video of just our predictions for next week.
Yeah. The podcast room probably will not be set up at that point, but we could at least go through that.
I'll just have a monster in my hand, a wrestling shirt on, and I'll just tell you all that I think that Roman Reigns is going to beat Kevin Owens next week.
Right.
That fucking cupcake eating piece of shit that he is.
Lloyd, that's a good question. Why is he doing his own thing but still representing the New Day? And that's the answer is money. Because what they've done is they've effectively split up the New Day, but now they have them technically with two different audiences, because one is on Fox and the other one's on the USA Network, and they have different audiences, so they're trying to get more bang for their buck. But with all that being said, I think they had a golden opportunity at Survivor Series to do something different with Big E, where he cost the New Day the titles, or the match, I should say, and then allowed him to chart his own course.
I didn't think they were going to do it after the fact that they did what they did with Otis and Tucker. I honestly think that they weren't going to do too many situations like that.
The only other thing I could see is that they have another draft or have a trade, and eventually Big E ends up back with them. But so far, it feels like a big waste of time and big waste with what they've done with Big E. I mean, he did have his match with Sami Zayn last night for non-title match, and I was glad that a non-title match did not end with the champion losing. So.
Yes, but 87% of the people said it was going to be Big E that beat Sami Zayn last night. And Sami Zayn's like 78 to 87% of those people owe me an apology.
Yeah.
Sami Zayn is the GOAT, man. I fucking love Sami Zayn. And speaking of last night, there was a couple of things that really kind of like stood in my head about last night.
Yeah.
So last night, last week, they had the Riot Squad on Talking Smack. And when they were on Talking Smack, Billie Kay was doing this whole thing about her. I have my pictures with my resume in the back, and has been trying to join whatever group that she can be in because they got rid of her from the Iconics.
Sure.
So basically, the Riot Squad issued a challenge to her saying that if you can find a tag team partner, we'll fight you next week. So they come out, and then, Billie Kay comes out, and she teams up with Natty Neidhart.
She's everybody's tag team partner.
Basically, Natty Neidhart. So there was 2 points that I wanted to make from this part of this conversation with last night. Number one, I don't even get me started on like this whole, they break up the Iconics, who were, in my opinion, one of the more entertaining tag teams of anything.
Not the greatest in the ring, but entertaining.
And they're still, Peyton Royce isn't terrible in the ring. Billie Kay has gotten awful. And it showed last night in that match. She is fucking terrible. But nevertheless, she's entertaining to say the least. And it just really bothers me that they wanted to split the Iconics so that Peyton Royce can kind of get a push, and like Billie Kay could do whatever and probably get future endeavored in about 6 months to a year. But the fact that they have Billie Kay now teaming up with Natty Neidhart, God only knows what the hell that's going to lead going forward. But the fact that Peyton Royce is teaming up with Lacey Evans on Raw, and it's like she's not even getting a women's singles push, was kind of stupid. And the fact that they lost. Billie Kay ended up losing and getting pinned, and the Riot Squad needs a little bit of work to do too, together as a tag team. And I think they can really, if they figure out all their issues, they're going to be a really good tag team in the women's division. I'm a fan of both of them. I like to see them both successful. There was a couple of moments that really stood out, but I'm not going to get into that.
Very true, Lloyd. Very true. Very true.
Yeah. And there was another match, but the other thing is that Natty Neidhart is now the longest tenured WWE women's superstar that they've had, and she's had more matches than anybody else in WWE history. And I was explaining to Nicole last night, she could definitely vouch for me on this one. Natty Neidhart might be the most forgettable person who has been with WWE as long as possible. Not to say that I'm not saying that she's a bad wrestler. I think she can wrestle, but she really hasn't done anything memorable. Has anything that Natty Neidhart done, other than when they did that stupid farting gimmick with her, really stood out for you?
No, she's a good hand in the ring.
Maybe not forget. I think maybe saying that she's the most forgettable is a bad thing. She's the least memorable.
She doesn't have any moments like Mickie James did with Trish at WrestleMania.
Yeah, you think about the rivalry, like with Trish Stratus. It's like, oh, well, she had that great rivalry with Lita. She had that great rivalry with Mickie James. Mickie James and Lita, vice versa. You think about it, Charlotte and Becky Lynch had a great rivalry. Bayley and Sasha Banks had a great rivalry. You think about all these women in the women's division, like in all the moments they've had, and it's like Natty Neidhart doesn't have that moment. And she is somebody who is a multiple-time women's champion.
She is.
And she is a really solid performer in the ring. I love Natty Neidhart personally, but it really got me to think last night that she really hasn't done a lot.
What's up, Zen Phoenix? We do have some of these T-shirts for sale. The ones we have are not the ones with the white backing. We have ones with black backing.
I wish I worked one of those shirts on me right now. But...
And if you give me about 30 seconds, I can get one or two. So, Lloyd, I would say it's not that she's there just because of her family. She is very good in the ring, and I think she could teach a lot of the younger women how to, one, carry themselves outside of the ring, and two, how to perform in the ring, because she's kind of that bridge between the era of the Barbie dolls or the models that they used to have to today.
And you think about it, when Ronda Rousey came in, the person that she thanked the most for helping her train to become a professional wrestler was Natty Neidhart. And I think that Natty's going to get into the Hall of Fame? I do. I really do.
I'll just
yeah, go ahead. Do your thing. I think that she's she's done enough in this company to actually warrant a Hall of Fame induction. It's just, it really just dawned on me, like, she really hasn't done anything memorable other than the fact that she married Bret Hart's paperboy. That's all she's done. And it's unfortunate. I it's that somebody like, there you go. It's not just a gimmick, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
1995, they're shipping and handling.
Right.
Wow, I freaked out a little bit because I just realized that the Facebook feed up top is a little behind, and I was like, somebody's coming in the room. And it was just you with the t-shirt. I'll be okay.
If you are interested in t-shirts, it is $20 and just email thefnmarks@gmail.com. We have your favorite colors as long as it's black. So
this is the prototype. This is the Matt Morgan t-shirt.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway,
I wanted to talk about that what Lloyd just said because it's kind of like this is not the first time I've heard this.
Yeah.
With Chelsea Green, and I'm trying to think what like they're talking about like a Chelsea Green being the stalker type of thing with the Mickie James, where she was going to stalk Mickie James, like Mickie James stalked Trish Stratus, which led to their match at WrestleMania, which led to Mickie James becoming women's champion. Okay, all right. I just sometimes with me, I have to gather up the rest of my 7 brain cells, put them all together, and have them all work as a cohesive unit. And with me, it's kind of hard when
right.
Okay, all right, because I heard that and I'm like, what the hell are they talking about with Chelsea Green thing? And now it dawned on me. Because originally, when I first saw it, it was Mickie James. There was nothing else. It was like they're recreating the Mickie James.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I gotcha. All right, because like when they didn't mention Trish Stratus, they just said they're going to do the Mickie James thing with Mickie James and Chelsea Green. I'm like, what part? Are they going to do Piggy James? Are they going to have her being stalked? Is she going to come out with a country album? Is she going to marry Magnus? I'm like, where are they going with this? I don't think Dabrowski would have liked that if they had her marry Magnus.
Right.
Whoa.
You know
it. I need some Zack Ryder back in my life.
Hey, speaking of Zack Ryder, while we're going off on a bunch of tangents right now, WWE put something out about wanting collectibles and memorabilia, old collectibles and memorabilia, and all that Matt Cardona responded with to WWE was,
"Are you serious, bro?"
LOL. It's like that dude has more memorabilia from WWE from yesteryear than like anybody. Like I remember, I think a couple of times during his, I think it was during the Z True Long Island Ice story. He went into his collectible room, and you're like, oh, shit. I mean, it looks like.
I love that dude. I really do.
You want to talk about a dude who loves professional wrestling? Like,
I mean,
ever since he was a kid. Yeah.
I mean, you and I love professional wrestling.
Yeah.
That's the reason why we dedicate a couple hours a weekend to talking to you all about professional wrestling
and watching an awful lot of it.
And that's now torture. It's not enjoyable anymore. It's now torture because like after you watch the first 7.5 hours of Monday Night Raw, you realize there's 2 more hours to go.
Right. It's like when you've watched the first 24 hours of WrestleMania and realize that you still have
half of the show to go.
Yeah.
Because everybody needs a match. I mean, that was the same thing when I went to WrestleMania 11. Everybody needed a match. That's why Bart Gunn had a match at WrestleMania 11. That's why he got squashed by Yokozuna.
Right. Yeah, Zen Phoenix, I've been watching since about as long as you have, so I'm with you.
I've been watching for...
Primetime Wrestling, baby.
I've been watching for 32 years I've been watching wrestling for.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
So, but yeah. Anyway,
there's such good shit, pal. Another part that I want to... The title just fell. The title is dropped. The title has fallen. Another thing that I wanted to talk about last night's SmackDown that really stood out, and it was just kind of funny to me because like the whole Billy Kay thing happened, and I was like, all right, I'm like, how are they gonna bounce back from this? What's the next match gonna be? So this whole Chad Gable Otis Dosovich thing. Yeah, that's exactly how I feel too, Jay. Like this whole Otis Dosovich Chad Gable thing is stupid. And one of the things I did take away from it is that Gable has the potential to be like Kurt Angle. Because he was the way he was talking and everything like that, I'm like, that's very Angle-ish. Just like the way he talked and all that stuff. And I get his size is going to definitely play a part in that, but Chad Gable he needs a beard. Yeah. Chad Gable needs a beard. And if you don't believe me that people need beards, just remember what Drew McIntyre looked like before he had a beard.
Yeah.
And I know you've probably
seen
He looks
like a grizzled young veteran, though. Yeah, see what I did? See what I did?
And I don't know if not too many people out here remember what I look like, but you definitely know what I look like without a beard. And I could say, and Nicole vouched for this, wherever the hell she is, I'd look better with a beard. There's certain people that look better with a beard. You think Chuck Norris would look, well, okay. That's the exception to the rule.
Chuck Norris faced Bruce Lee when he didn't have his beard.
And lost.
Yes. If he had the beard.
Chuck Norris had an awkward moment just to have an awkward moment.
Right. That's right.
But anyway, so that whole thing it's just, I'm not a fan of it. And it's,
I don't know.
Okay.
Animalish?
The whole thing, because like they did it after that, and it's like I still don't understand why they broke up Heavy Machinery, because all they're doing is they're burying Tucker on Raw, and they're just kind of leaving Otis flopping around after they gave Otis the girl, they gave Otis the briefcase, then they took the girl away from Otis, and in my opinion, she is the smokiest of the smoke shows of the women in the WWE. You can't even tell me I'm wrong, because she is definitely the best looking woman in the women's.
God's gift.
Yes. And then they took away his tag team partner. Then they took away his briefcase. And it's like, here, we're just going to put you with Chad Gable. Because why the fuck not?
Yeah, Tucker got gold before Otis did.
That's sad. That's sad to me. That is sad. Because they could have kept them as Heavy Machinery as a tag team. And now it's like, we're going to put Otis Dosovich with Chad Gable.
We're going to break up every tag team to put them in random other pairings. Why? Because.
I can't wait until they break up the Street Profits and they put Angelo Dawkins with, like, The Fiend. Because they're going to do something retarded like that.
So Lloyd brings up Alexa and Liv is possibly better than
Mandy. And trust me, I'm a huge fan of Alexa. I am a huge fan of Alexa Bliss.
All in the eye of the beholder.
It's either her or Mandy Rose is the hottest. Liv Morgan, you think she's hot, and then she starts talking. That's all I'm going to say. You serious, bro? And
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, we could sit here and spend an entire 2-hour podcast talking about like where we rank all the women in the WWE and their attractiveness and all that stuff, and everybody's going to have a differentiating opinion. And if Big C was in here chiming in, we'd all know that he would say Toni Storm.
Right.
You know, if Jeff was in here, he'd probably say Dana Brooke because they went to high school together.
I don't know about that.
And if a certain somebody was in here, he'd be like, wait, they broke up the Iconics?
Probably. Yeah.
Wait, Heavy Machinery's not a tag team anymore?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, anyway.
But it was back-to-back matches where they had these two makeshift tag teams with people who were just part of a tag team not too long ago when they decided to break up. And it was because of the fact that they wanted to push Peyton Royce in the women's division on their own. And they wanted to push Otis Dosovich in the men's division individually. And then it's like, I swear, Vince's opinions about people in the wrestling in WWE changes like the weather in Connecticut. If Vince McMahon doesn't like something, just wait 15. Or if Vince likes something, just wait 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Those were my two biggest thoughts about last night.
Well, they had the Carmella and Sasha contract signing for TLC, but it was weird that they also had a match. Like they're literally going to have a match for the title next week.
Are we sure that match is still on next week, even though they had the match last night?
supposedly there's a contract signed that they did at the beginning of the show, and they had it where Carmella's like, well, I'm not coming out there after what you did before.
That was another thing I did want to bring up. I like this new Carmella.
All right.
It's a different one because she kind of was, she really played that role of the, I mean, the way that she was is like, she was what, she's from Staten Island, right?
Yeah, the Queen of Staten Island.
She played the Queen of Staten Island. She played that New Yorker role very well. Now she's embraced this new character and this new persona, and I'm digging it, and I'm enjoying Carmella out there. I've always liked Carmella. She has gotten a lot better since she got called up a few years ago, and I think that she has a chance, especially with this new character, to just kind of take off and do things with it.
Well, and the thing is with Carmella, I don't think character was ever really her problem. I think they need to figure out a way to like separate her from R-Truth. As entertaining as they were, it's like you know, that eventually for Carmella leads to a dead end as far as like you know, it was great when she was the Queen of Staten Island and when she had James Ellsworth, you know, helping her out. And her winning the title those couple times, James Ellsworth helping her hold on to the title. And then, you know, her just like randomly, I think her and R-Truth was not supposed to be a thing.
Yeah.
They saw them backstage, like, and saw the chemistry that they had and thought it was great and ended up being something that lasted a year and a half. So, but yeah.
And I agree. And I think that, like you said, with Carmella, she was kind of in a dead end situation in that role, whereas R-Truth, who is the long-standing veteran, it's like he could do whatever the hell he wants. He's R-Truth. He basically, he takes all these piles of shit that WWE hands out to people, and he just turns it into gold. I mean, the 24/7 title is only relevant because of him, if you think about it.
Yeah.
And like the whole little Jimmy thing, and I still think, and I know you agree with me with this, he should have taken the title from Cena.
He should have it in Washington, D.C.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I still remember the time he came out in Richmond, Virginia, 2 hours right up the road, where he dressed up as a Confederate soldier singing "The Saints Will Come Marching in his version with Little Jimmy. Yeah. Still one of the greatest things I've ever seen on Raw.
But I think Vince actually, I've read something somewhere where Vince is like going, just give it to R-Truth. He'll figure a way to make it work. Like, I wish, like, obviously there aren't that many people that he gives that much, like, liberty to, and he doesn't, and not everybody can actually make these things work. R-Truth, on the other hand, like, all right, yeah. And you know what? That dude, for his age, is in damn good shape. I think he's like 50 right now. And
he's not 50, he's knocking on 50's door for sure.
So.
And if you think about it, I mean, he's in better, him and Chris Jericho are not that different in like age-wise, and he looks a hell of a lot better than Chris Jericho does. In fact, last night, Chris Jericho posted a picture on social media where he was talking about it was his nephew's 21st birthday, and that he was dressing up like he did when he was 21. And I was like, Chris Jericho looks like the mom who's had a rough life and is a couple years removed from a midlife crisis, who is hungover and all that stuff. And he just looked like shit.
Well, the crazy thing is like Jericho's last run in WWE, which was not that long ago, like he looked like Chris Jericho from the early 2000s.
Yep.
And it's like, no, I've read a thing where part of the weight gain and the way he looks now is part of his heel character, but I'm like, I don't know, I'm kind of giving him the side eye wondering, like, really? Or is it just because it's just too difficult for you to keep in shape at this point? I mean, it sucks. We all get older and we all, like, can't stay in shape like we used to. But.
And which is incredible, too, because for a guy who's been wrestling for 30 years, at 50 years of age, who is not really in the best shape of his career, still goes out there and performs like he's
at a pretty
younger.
A pretty high level. Like, he doesn't move as fast as he used to, but Jericho was also never known for moving super fast, but he knew how to put his matches together, knew how to grab the crowd, and he still knows how to grab the crowd.
Not too many people grab the crowd better than he does. Chris Jericho knows how to get a reaction out of people.
And why is that, Cousin Bobby?
Because he is the goat of goats who has goated more than goats have ever goated in the history of goatdom.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was funny too, because I remember the other day on Twitter, the Twitter account was like, GOAT versus GOAT. And I was like, can I put Chris Jericho twice?
Yeah.
I don't even think I put an answer because I couldn't come up with one.
Right.
Because I saw GOAT and the first thing I thought of was Chris Jericho. I don't know why that is like that, but whenever I hear GOAT and think GOAT, I think of Chris Jericho.
And speaking of the GOAT, we did have a segment on AEW this week where there was an ultimatum of whether the Inner Circle was going to continue on as they were, and Jericho was trying to smooth out all the rough edges between like Sammy Guevara and MJF, and then also between Wardlow and Jake Hager, and I forget if it was Santana or Ortiz that was there for the segment, but more or less was kind of like going, hey man, as much as I had a tough time with MJF at the beginning, I'm starting to really, I'm starting to like him. I'm starting to connect with him, and he was kind of the thing that kind of was kind of the smoothing over between MJF and Sammy Guevara, but Sammy Guevara is still kind of saying, hey, I got my eye out on you. I'm going to make sure that you're doing your thing. But like, to me, the funny little bit was when Wardlow and Jake Hager were just staring at each other and like, just.
That's been one of my favorite parts about this whole thing with MJF trying to join the Inner Circle is the fact that Hagar and Wardlow have just been kind of staring at each other because they don't trust the other one.
Yeah.
And it was funny because like it was happening in Vegas, it happened in the ring, it just happened everywhere. And I fucking love that aspect of it.
And then they like talked about like, well, stop looking weird at me, man. You stop looking weird at me. And like, I was hoping Hager was going to be like, get rid of that man bun and get better cologne.
Oh shit! Stop smelling like a barbershop haircut and $2 Walmart brand cologne.
Right. But Lloyd, I did not see that they pulled the fake WCW and ECW Twitter accounts, but it's funny how like you can fool somebody all the time, and wrestling fans are no exception. It's like you sit there and put up stuff like that to see if anybody's going to bite, and it's like, yep, there's always people where it's like, when WCW ended, it wasn't like you would go to the arena and hear WCW, WCW, ECW, ECW. That was the thing that, Vince brought back, but it's like, those have been over and done with for so long. It's like, they're not bringing that back. They'd come up with something new so they could brand it on their own and make it completely their own. They tried bringing back the ECW, and it lasted for like 4 or 5 years, and actually, to me, was a good feeder system for the main roster because, you got to put guys like Sheamus in the ring with like, at the time, Gold Dust. And I think a lot of that was so Gold Dust could see how they were in the ring, and 2, help them out in the ring and get them and report back to Vince or whoever and say, yes, this person could go. You can bring them up to the main roster. So
it's a shameful thing, Lobsterhead.
Yeah,
I fucking hated Sheamus then too. I did.
Yeah,
I hated him. And I really wish I had just jumped on that bandwagon earlier than I did, but hey, as the legendary Cheech Marin once said in Ghostbusters 2,
better late than never. Yeah. So, but in the end, Inner Circle is still a thing, and
they have the first ever 7-on-7 match in the history of AEW next week on Dynamite. As the entire Inner Circle, all 85 members of them, will be going up Like I was looking at the list of people that they're fighting, and I'm like, yeah, I know who the best friends are. Yeah, I know who this person is, and then I'm like, who the fuck? Who?
Mitchell Friedman.
Mitchell Friedman? I'm like, what is going on here?
They could have just had him go against the Dark Order.
Would have made more sense because they have like 900 members of the Dark Order.
And speaking of the Dark Order was trying to recruit one Dustin Rhodes into the Dark Order. Dustin had a match and was victorious. And Dustin, when he was invited in, ended up slapping. I forget which one of the Dark Order it was. What?
It was 10.
Okay.
That was a member of the Dark Order. How I just knew that off the top of my head. I'm like, wait a minute, I know this one.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was trying to find what the 7-on-7 match for next week is going to be. Because I need to unload all 700 members of the fight in the next match.
So at least for now, Dustin Rhodes not a part of the Dark Order, and gonna continue his alliance with his brother and QT Marshall and all that jazz. But beyond that, his brother did have a segment this week, and to me, one of the best segments, one of the best things of all this week in wrestling. Really, really cool interaction between him and Sting. That they had Cody out there to cut a promo and pretty quickly interrupted by the arena going dark and it starting to snow. Sting coming out. Just a little subtle thing that happened though was Arn Anderson just going up to Sting. I just need to get a little closer. Make sure this is real. All right, I know you got an agenda. You probably have one too. I'm going to get out of here and let you guys go about your business. Just like, it's a little subtle thing about like, I don't know, something about that spot. I was like, oh, all right, this is cool. And what they did here between the little stuff like Schiavone, like Sting saying, say it's Sting. Say it's Sting. You've done so much for my career. And hearing Schiavone do that was great. The mark in me, dude who has been watching Sting and having Tony Schiavone announce Sting. I mean, he's not Gary Michael Capetta saying,
Nobody's Gary.
This is
Sting! Yeah. I found the match, by the way. All I had to do was go on Chris Jericho's Instagram account.
All right.
It'll be the Inner Circle, which is all 7 members of the Inner Circle. I'm not going to go through all of them because you basically list them off anyway. Going up against the Best Friends, Top Flight, the Varsity Blondes. I don't even know who the fuck the Varsity Blondes are.
I forget who one of them is, but the other one is Brian Pillman's son.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
That's Flying Brian Jr.?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. That makes it even more interesting. I want to see that. And Jay Cutler's brother, Brandon.
Right. Great.
Yeah, there's the Chris Jericho picture. Doesn't he look kind of ragged? And look at him. Tell me he doesn't look like an older woman who has had.
He looks like an 80s rocker. 80s rocker. It could be an older woman with a rough life. Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison. All right. That's the varsity.
Griff Garrison sound familiar? No, that's gonna
I don't know.
Thank you, Lloyd. We appreciate that.
So the other thing that went on here, though, with Cody and Sting is like Cody talking about how this is something he's been waiting for a long time, and it's clear that like at least the agenda that Cody wants to set is he wants to have a match with Sting. But Sting's whole thing here was like going, yeah, you know a lot what's going on with AEW. You don't know what's going on with me. You don't know what I want to do. So He's like, I'm going to play my own game, and I'm not going to tell you what my game is. We'll get in the ring, maybe later, maybe at some point. But, Sting also referencing like, something's familiar around here, and referencing Darby Allin being all by his lonesome up in the, the stands instead of the rafters. So I think we're going to get something with Sting and Darby, and I think as a team, before we get something. Honestly, it could be Sting and Darby eventually versus Dustin and Cody.
I didn't realize I want. You ever had one of those
Yeah.
situations that you didn't know you wanted something until it got brought to your attention? So after Sting debuted on Dynamite, not this past week, but the week before, Chris Jericho posted a picture of him and Sting, and he said, "What do you all think? I want the Icon versus." You can think of whatever you want to call the Ayatollah Rockarola, the Le Champion, the what is it? The rating? What is he? He's the
demo god.
The demo god. I want Jericho and Sting.
Even though they're at the age that they're at, they still know how to tell a story in the ring.
Oh God!
And one thing that even in my job, I see this. There's a lot of people in like video editing that try to edit things together super quick, and you're like, going, "Well, that's really flashy," and then you're like, "Oh, that was cool to look at," and then 5 minutes later, you don't remember anything of what you saw. You're like, "Oh, well, I remember it was cool looking."
Right.
Whereas, you get like, whether it's like that match of Cody versus Dustin in AEW, for me a couple years ago, match of the year.
Oh, it's fucking awesome.
Or even like the match between like the Hell in a Cell match between Triple H and Undertaker, which I know Bret Hart didn't like, but I thought storytelling wise told a great story, overarching basically 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Between the two Shawn Michaels matches and two Triple H matches, well, at least in that series. Yeah, I know Triple H had 3 matches with Undertaker at WrestleMania, but the 2 matches specifically after that. But like, part of the storytelling is taking your time to let the audience soak in and marinate what the hell you're doing, you're saying, instead of just moving on to the next thing, making the crowd go ooh and ah. You need to make them feel you in that moment. And I think that's one thing AEW, in particular, most of the Cody Rhodes storylines have been good at, is we're not going to give it to you right away. Even the Kenny Omega and Hangman Page storyline, we're going to make you wait. We're going to give this time to marinate and give this time to evolve. And I freaking love that. Yeah.
We got a trophy, by the way, for some.
Oh, great. Sweet.
I'll take any day. I'll take a trophy any day. As long as it's not a participation trophy. And then Mike chimed in and said that he would not like to see Sting get back in the ring because of the fact that he has spinal stenosis and everything like that. Sting knows what Sting wants to do. Sting's not going to go out there and risk himself and his livelihood if he doesn't think that he can actually handle getting into the ring. And I will say that, I mean, just the wrestling mark in me wants to see Sting and Chris Jericho. The common sense version of myself realizes that I'm more likely going to see Sting in like a multiple person tag match where he gets to tag in later on, hits a couple of moves, and scores the pinfall. I mean, that's...
the only thing I would say to that, Mike, is are you okay with Edge wrestling right now? If you're okay with Edge wrestling, you should be okay with Sting wrestling. Yeah, I know there's a bit of an age difference between the two of them, but Edge had a far, far more advanced case of spinal stenosis and neck issues than Sting does. And Sting's been out of the ring for 5 years, and Edge took 9 years off, and I think the surgeries for correcting that have gotten better, and I think their knowledge of it has gotten better. I mean, look at Sheamus specifically. Sheamus, they thought, like, then he might be getting on the back end of his career, but there's ways that you could actually build up your neck and protect yourself better. And again, between therapy and better surgeries, I think Tony Khan wouldn't let Sting in the ring if he thought he could get hurt. Sting would not want to go in the ring if he thought he was going to hurt himself permanently. So that's just my personal opinion. To me, it would be sad if the last thing we saw of Sting in the ring was him trying to run the ropes and his body giving out, where he just had to run and fall to his knees. But you know what? That dude being the pro he was finished that match. So, but yeah, so I think Sting will be fine in the ring. I think he'll be limited in what he can do, and but people will know his limitations. He knows his limitations, and that'll be good.
Fair enough. Mike did say that he was not a fan of Edge coming back.
Yeah.
And I think that Edge, the only reason Edge came back is because Edge wanted to leave on his own terms. He didn't want to go out the way he did. And I don't blame him, because if I was wrestling, that's the way I'd want to go.
But WWE, being a publicly traded company, they don't want somebody to get hurt like that on TV or because they came and wrestled. I mean, they were the ones who told Edge to retire, and you're never going to be allowed to wrestle again. But he felt like he got it to a manageable place, and based off of what we've seen him do in the ring since he came back,
it was pretty solid.
It doesn't look much different than the Edge that we saw 10 years ago. So. And the injury he sustained had nothing to do with his neck. He tore his tricep in the best match ever, greatest wrestling match ever. So,
right. Anything else you want to add for the wrestling from Raw, AEW, or SmackDown?
Well, I mean, personally, I thought this thing with Sting and Cody was great, and definitely is leading to something in the future, whatever it may be. Right. I love that Shaquille O'Neal is a fan of professional wrestling and shows up at as many wrestling shows as he can. He specifically had a segment here with Brandy Rhodes where he kept on kind of giving backhand compliments and or just outright kind of throwing shade at her. At the end of it, Brandy ends up throwing water in his face. But I love the fact that Shaq is a mark and loves professional wrestling and is willing to do anything and everything to help it get over. Whether it was Shaq in '94 going with Hulk Hogan when Hogan went against Flair in his first match and won the WCW title and things like that.
Or if it was Shaq after his career was over and he wrestled in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, which I was hoping he was going to win too.
Yeah.
I wanted to see him win that one, but that's all right. And I really did think we were going to get Shaq and Big Show at WrestleMania, but obviously it didn't work out scheduling conflict-wise.
Sure. Beyond that,
I love Shaq. It's taken me a long time to get over the whole Shaq left Orlando and went to play for the Lakers, but I love Shaq, and it's just having him out there is just fantastic.
Beyond that, as far as wrestling this week, one thing I definitely want to comment on was the appearance of Kenny Omega on Impact Wrestling this week. I know you are not Kenny Omega's biggest fan. You hate him, actually. But the interview that he did with Josh Matthews, one that they kept on making fun of Josh Matthews, was great. But honestly, if you want to hate Kenny Omega, this was he was great in this role. And Don Callis was perfect in his role, talking about, I was sitting there and doing well in the business world for years, do you think I just came back to this randomly? No, I had a plan. And each plan kept on coming to this and coming to this and coming to this. All of this was a plan for the last 5 years to get to this moment. And Kenny Omega and Don Callis were just such freaking dicks in this interview. It was awesome. I loved it.
I love Don Callis. I do. Back in the days of WCW, he played the network executive who would basically sit there and do commentary with Joey Styles. I love Don Callis. He sold the shit out of it when he was the Jackal in WWE.
Jackal.
I think
The
that
Jackal.
if he's going to be, because like a lot of people are saying that his contract expires at the end of either this month or next month with Impact Wrestling, and when it does, he's going to come in and work for AEW, and he's going to work as Kenny Omega's mouthpiece.
And one thing that we discussed last week, I think a lot of this actually has more to do, in my view, with they need somebody to run the second show that they're going to have for AEW on TNT.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's going to be his main role. Mm-hmm. It's going to be similar to Heyman as executive producer on Raw and being Brock Lesnar's mouthpiece. So,
and I think he's now executive director of SmackDown, and he is the tribal chief. Got to make sure I don't call him the big dog anymore. That's going to take a lot because Michael Cole freaking drilled that in my fucking head for like decades. It felt like, even though it was only years.
Yeah.
But
whether or not Don Callis ends up on AEW, we'll find out. But originally the talk was that this was like a one-off thing. But apparently we're getting Kenny Omega again this week on Impact. And we'll see if we get the Good Brothers anytime soon on AEW TV and how they introduce them. I'm really excited to see how all of this turns out. But like I said, I thought Omega, for his part, like even though he's not a great promo on live TV, was fucking awesome in this. He was such a dick. It was great.
Kenny Omega looks like a donkey's nutsack. His face.
But, just the fact that he's like, hey, if you talk about the greatest wrestling matches in Japan, and like 9 of the 10 of them, who's in the match? I am. And he's like, in AEW, of the 20 best matches that you've ever had in AEW, I'm in 17 of them. And like, just, again, super dick. And then like when he goes like, in Zimbabwe, and like talks about, yeah, that's probably me too. But beautiful. I
can't.
So good.
I've actually had to just Google the picture of a donkey's
exactly.
nutsack because I'm like, what does Kenny Omega look like? And I just started, Googling, and I'm like, oh, he looks like a donkey's nutsack. There we go.
Right. So I thought that was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Lloyd, I did also hear about them talking about doing Omega versus Swan. I think that's a bad idea, bringing the AEW champion to fight the Impact champion, because there's no way the Impact is going to want Rich Swann losing to a guy who doesn't even work for the company. And there's no way the AEW is going to allow their newest champion to lose to a guy from outside of their company.
Not that it's the same exact thing, but Thunder Rosa did come and go against Hikaru Shida.
True.
And was NWA champion. NWA is still technically a thing.
Yes, they are.
So
I guess she had a match, I think it was either this week or last week, Thunder Rosa, and I was told, from what I was, not like me personally told, but from what I've read, it was must-see wrestling, and I'm going to have to go and find that now.
Yeah. All right, beyond that this week, one thing that I thought that was actually really well done on Raw, Miz and Morrison trying to sow this thread that all Sheamus is trying to do right now. He is going to backstab Drew McIntyre and try to take the title from him. And you end up having Drew and Sheamus kind of chasing Miz and Morrison out of the ring, and we ended up with a 3-on-2 handicap match for the main event of Raw, which had Miz Morrison, AJ Styles going against Sheamus and Drew McIntyre. But at the end of this match, Sheamus lines up for a brogue kick, and accidentally hits McIntyre, and they end up losing the match. AJ ends up, I think he pinned Drew, or he pinned Sheamus. I'm sorry, pinned Sheamus after the phenomenal forearm. But the end of this match, this is what I loved the most about it. McIntyre and Sheamus are beating the holy hell out of each other. Then when they kind of get over beating the holy hell out of each other, they're like, oh, you know what? Let's go get a pint. Fucking brilliant. I loved it. Loved it.
I'd love to go party with those two, Sheamus and Drew McIntyre.
Yeah.
So I think that it would be an entertaining time, and I know that I couldn't drink Sheamus under the table if I tried.
Yeah. But in the end, my belief is that Sheamus is doing this on purpose, and this is going to be so Sheamus and Drew have a match.
Probably at the Royal Rumble.
And sign me up for it. Like I said, I love big guy matches where they're stiff with each other. These guys are like best friends for a long time because, they were the big guys in Europe, because in general, like, when you look at a lot of the English wrestlers, they're smaller dudes.
Mm-hmm.
But like Drew and Sheamus obviously are tall and bulky, but I love seeing two big dudes throw hands, and I can't wait to see this. So
agreed. And you know that they've been talking about having a match like this for years.
Oh yeah, they want it to happen, and I think in particular, Sheamus has been such a good soldier for all these years. I think Vince has no problem actually going, hey, all right. Yeah.
Then put the Intercontinental title on him, Vince!
He's on a different show. They just left that title.
He was on the show, the Intercontinental Championship, and they didn't put the title on him.
Well, that's just another thing that Vince screwed up with the draft.
Vince doesn't screw up anything. Look, come on.
I just need to point this out also on Raw. Slapjack and Reckoning lost. I just had to say Slapjack.
Slapjack. We have a quota that we need to hit. We need to say Slapjack at least once in the episode.
Yeah. Yeah. We had that. We had the. I thought we had a pretty good segment there with the Tribal Chief on SmackDown, though, where like, Captain Cupcake trying to call him out, and
my favorite part about that whole segment when Kevin Owens came out to the ring. And he grabbed the table, he grabbed the ladder, and he grabbed the chair, and he's like, these are my friends. And I'm like, well, if you weren't such a fucking baby, you would probably have more friends than just inanimate objects.
Right.
Maybe you didn't block people for stupid reasons, Kevin Owens.
Yeah.
Shove fucking cupcakes in your mouth, Kevin Owens.
Yeah.
I will never, ever forgive Kevin Owens for that. Ever. Ever.
Chris Brown, yes, Sheamus has spinal stenosis, but they kind of caught it early on, so to speak, where there are actually ways that you could build up the muscles around the neck, and you could do things to help mitigate what's going on. That's and that in part was why they had made the bar. The bar was so Sheamus didn't have to take quite as many bumps, and they were a freaking great team.
Wait a minute, I thought they created the bar so that the Brainless One can add another team to his top 5 favorite tag teams of all time.
Yeah.
Because they are. The bar is on the Brainless top 5 of all time tag teams. They're behind the Legion of Doom, the Dudley Boys, the Harlem Heat, and I really have to think about that 4th tag team.
Heart Foundation, maybe?
Heart Foundation, thank you. That's another good one. So, I just want to make sure I didn't disrespect other tag teams out there.
But
Nasty Boys and
Sure.
Demolition and
Your favorite Steiner brothers.
the Quebecers.
Right.
Headbangers. The Bushwhackers.
So NXT this week, obviously the fallout. Okay, another one of my favorite things from this past week is after the War Games match, the next day on his show, Pat McAfee showed up with a neck brace. You want to talk about a professional wrestler keeping
God.
kayfabe alive? I love it.
I love Pat McAfee. Let me repeat myself. The brainless one loves Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee is must-see television on NXT each and every single week for the brand. I love it. He's killing it. The man is just a natural heel. The man knows how to get a reaction out of people. And this is now his second NXT takeover that he worked, and both ones he looked really good in those matches. Granted, I understand that he went up against four of the best in-ring performers in the industry.
Yeah.
But Pat McAfee looked good. It's one thing for you to like be, oh, okay, you're all right. Pat McAfee looks good, and he
looks better than Nia Jax and some of the people that have been wrestling for years.
Pat McAfee in his first two matches in WWE looked better than The Miz's first 5 years in the ring.
True. You know what, Lloyd? That is a very, very fair question. Karrion Kross comes back. I know Damian Priest earlier in the show had called him out when Scarlett came out. If you're Karrion Kross in your last match, you were the champion. You didn't lose the title. Why are you going after Damian Priest and not after Finn Balor? It makes no sense. Who knows? Who knows?
Maybe him attacking Damian Priest was just a way to make a statement.
Well, I think we're going to get that match. My guess, Lloyd, is that they're going to have a television feud with Damian Priest and Karrion Kross, where Karrion Kross goes over, and we're going to have Karrion Kross versus whoever the champion happens to be, which I believe will be Finn Balor, on TakeOver. Maybe it'll be at TakeOver next month. I'm assuming they're having TakeOver before the Royal Rumble.
I'm assuming they are too. I think that the reason that they did the whole thing with, because when he started attacking, it was funny too, because like when he started attacking Damian Priest the way he did, because Priest was coming out there because he didn't like what Johnny Gargano was saying, and like that whole segment, by the way, with all of them, the fucking trophy presentation that he gave, he's like, I ordered this strictly from Italy, and my favorite part, the one thing that stood out the most for me before the whole Karrion Kross thing was, he was like, because he gave the trophy to Candace, and he goes, the only trophy I need, and like Candace was like, oh, he's gonna say me. He's like, is this NXT North American Championship? And she's like, oh. I was like, oh shit, now that's funny.
Gargano killed it this week.
Gargano's killing this heel turn, period.
He was so good with like that trophy,
Oh, he's killed.
Oh.
We are getting the best Johnny Gargano we could possibly get, and he did bring up something too in his promo that he cut, was that he's like, people always look at me as the underdog and everything like that, and I could win championships. He's like, I just can't hold it. He's like, so my goal now as the North American champion is I want to hold this title and have a long-lasting reign. And I'm like, he's actually right. Everybody was so happy with him and Ciampa as DIY winning the tag team titles. Everybody lost their shit when Gargano became the North American champion. Everybody, especially El Jefe, F and Mark's Hall of Famer, lost their shit when he won the NXT championship. And it's like, he's got a chance to be a star in this company. And like everybody, like the whole like, oh, I'm the underdog and I'm this guy and and I do all this. I'm Johnny Takeover. Now he's killing it. At this point, he is killing it. He might be the second biggest star they have after Pat McAfee.
Yeah.
And
you're talking NXT. You're not talking Roman Reigns.
Oh, I'm talking NXT. Just the NXT roster.
Sure.
And it's not a slight at anybody else, because right now, like I said,
they have a lot of great in-ring performers. I'm not going to say I completely agree with CM Punk saying, like, why is Pat McAfee, who's been in the wrestling game for all of, a cup of coffee, a better promo and better at a lot of things than people that have supposedly loved this business and been doing it for a long time. But, you know, obviously you got Adam Cole, baby, in the whole Undisputed Era, which obviously brings people to the table. But, you know, Gargano and all the things that they've been doing. I did enjoy the fact that when took off the ghost face and it's me, Austin Theory, playing back to the Ministry.
Austin Theory kind of like, he really sold it for me during that promo on Wednesday. Like the whole thing with them doing the high five, not looking, he's like, what kind of a page? I'm like, oh my God, this is actually good shit. This is such good shit, pal. I was thoroughly entertained with that. I am on board with this whole thing. And as Lloyd said, that he doesn't understand why they're called The Way, is like their new stable, and they could have came up with something better. I do agree, but let's see how they do it. Because like with The Way, I always think of fastball. Dun, 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 yeah, I could go on.
Yeah.
I'm not going to.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed that. NXT, I love NXT. I watch NXT every single week. Like SmackDown, I'm like, oh, let's see what else is on. I'm like, all right, fine, I'll watch SmackDown. Raw, I'm like, here, I'm just going to go outside and sit outside next to my garbage cans and watch that because this is just entertaining as watching Raw. NXT, I'm like clearing the path. I'm sitting, I'm making sure everything's taken care of. I do not miss NXT at all because it's that good. I think they have the best product of all of them. And that's saying a lot because it's on the same show, the same night as AEW. And, you know, they always talk about how the ratings and the demos and all this stuff. And it's like, bro, Chris, I haven't watched NXT. I haven't watched AEW in like 6 months. I've been on NXT. I've been on an NXT kick. And I'm going to still keep watching NXT because it's better.
Yeah, Lloyd, that there are those rumors out there about Austin Theory, and that's why he got taken out of the stable with Seth Rollins. But I don't know. Either WWE's really completed an investigation of Austin Theory and found nothing that was substantiated, or, you know, like Velveteen Dream, just sweep it under the rug. It's fine. Moving on.
Please don't get me started on sweeping shit under the rug.
Right?
Yeah?
Exactly. So yeah, there was that. And for whatever, so Tommaso Ciampa and his new character, like I kind of like the face plate that he has, and I think he said something to the effect that he needs to rid NXT of certain types of folks. I forget exactly what it was, but for whatever reason, he had to go against the Cameron Grimes, who lost at War Games in his strap match against Dexter Lumis. But for whatever reason, I mean, they did have an enjoyable match, but it's like, Cameron Grimes, really? This is what you got for Tommaso Ciampa?
Entertaining match. And I love the fact that Timothy Thatcher did come out with a steel chair and sat there and watched. Yeah. I for whatever reason, just because I know how WWE books, and because I've been watching it for a bajillion years, I have a feeling we're going to get Ciampa and Thatcher as a tag team. I think that's what they're building towards, because it kind of has that same feel that they did a few years back where they were doing the Sheamus and Cesaro beating the bloody hell out of each other every single time. And yeah, I could see that happening, because I think that, first of all, I think the two of them, their match at TakeOver was the best match of the night. Don't even tell me any differently. Yeah. Nothing against the War Games match, the guys' War Games match in the main event. Thatcher and Ciampa beat the holy hell out of each other. They were stiff as hell against each other, like we both thought they were going to do. Yeah. I was thoroughly entertained. I like Thatcher a lot. This guy, he's starting to grow on me. And Ciampa, I've done a complete 180 on, because, you know, I have to, you know, support my friends and how they've dealt with certain things over the years. So obviously my opinions about Ciampa have changed, because a certain F and Marks Hall of Famer does not see eye to eye with Ciampa. So, well,
it is what
we'll
it is.
Leave it at that.
Mike, Velveteen Dream has not been released. He's still on NXT. I think they're using him sparingly, and I think they're trying to. I don't know if they're trying to see if other things are going to come out, or if they're just like, this is part of whatever punishment WWE has for him, where they're like, yeah, we've cleared you, but we need to make sure before we put you in anything high profile. So.
Yeah, I was curious too, because it's been a while since the last time we saw the Dream.
Yeah.
I think he had a match against Ciampa was the last time, right?
I think you're correct.
Yes.
Yeah, Chris, the Brainless one did bring that up a little bit earlier about Lee McIntyre and Brock Lesnar for this year's WrestleMania. So
I hope the title is not in a triple threat match.
If they build a triple threat match correctly, I have no problem with triple threat matches. But, you know, my problem with triple threat matches was a couple years ago when Charlotte Flair was injected into the match with Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch. Didn't need to happen.
Which is funny because, like, people always, like a few years back when Daniel Bryan was added to the main event of WrestleMania 30, nobody had a problem with it. The storyline-wise, it made sense. And I'm glad he went over like he did. But
yeah, Lloyd, we were seeing that in the news too. NXT India is supposedly going to happen in 2021, headed by the great Kali, and he's just going to teach Punjabi prison matches. And they're going to actually, on repeat, they're going to have his match against Batista in the Punjabi prison.
Please, no.
The worst! No, but yeah, Triple H I know had the call about like them wanting to set something up in Japan, something in India, something in the Middle East. So we'll see about that. And you know, the way that they're building NXT, the brand, it's like they're trying to kind of pick off one part of the world at a time to make it a global entity, almost like Vince is like, hey, United States is SmackDown and Raw. Let NXT flourish elsewhere. And I honestly, what I think is going to end up happening, they're going to have all these versions of NXT all over the place, and they're going to have kind of what I would consider the Super Bowl of NXT at some point, where they will have the champions from the different NXTs in some form of tournament. And
Walter's going to win. Got it. Noted.
And I'm going to say that happens within 5 years.
Where Walter will still be, and is still on the same rating as NXT UK champion.
7 years into it.
Yeah.
So.
But the finals will be him in the India representative in the Punjabi prison match.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Jinder Mahal. With the great Khali as especially as referee, even though he can't lift his arm 3 times to count to 3.
No, what they'll do is that they're just going to have a pad that he could slap while standing up. Because if he went to like lay down to count, he won't get back up. So anyway, yeah. So that's that.
Want to touch base on War Games a little bit?
Yeah, we could touch base on War Games.
So we did talk about the Ciampa and Thatcher. Like I said, I thought that was my favorite match of the night. Nothing against all the other ones, but they, like I said, they beat the holy hell out of each other.
Loomis and Cameron Grimes beat the holy hell out of each other, and you know they played well into that storyline and their characters.
Yep.
I enjoyed the heck out of it. They actually went a little longer than I thought it was going to,
Same.
But they did a great job.
I like Dexter Loomis a lot. He's one of my favorites in NXT. I like Thatcher. I like Dexter Loomis. Obviously, I like Adam Cole, baby. You know, I like Pat McAfee, but like, yeah, I'm starting to like Dexter Loomis. He's got a very unique look about him. He is definitely embracing this character role that he has got right here because isn't he like Dexter from the TV show Dexter? Is that what I'm understanding? He's basing it around.
I guess so. I mean, Yeah. Yeah, Dexter was kind of a loner and kind of did his own thing, but he was a serial killer.
And the thing about him was, like, I remember when they did that Futures thing, and I know I brought this up before, but I know when they did that Futures tournament that they had, where they had like Bronson Reed and Cameron Grimes and all those guys in the tournament, and the winner got a future shot at the title, and like he came out, and I'm like, holy shit! I'm like, this dude's got to win the whole thing, and he got knocked out in the first round.
Right. You know what, Lloyd? That's not a bad idea if they did like an elimination chamber with all the guys that came out at the beginning of NXT that want to face Finn Balor.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see.
Yeah.
So Lloyd's saying, and Dr. Loomis from Halloween. Halloween was always the GOAT as far as horror movies, as far as I was concerned.
And Dr. Loomis is the GOAT.
Right.
Dr. Loomis is the baddest motherfucker I've ever seen in a movie. I'm sorry, I don't care what anybody says. You don't fuck with Dr. Loomis.
Dude, he went head to head with Michael Myers and survived a couple times.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, good times.
We also had
we did crown a new North American champion in Johnny Gargano.
in a triple threat match where we had a bunch of Scream mask wearing individuals coming out there and getting involved, and Priest, kind of fought them all off. And then eventually Johnny Gargano just got the advantage as one of them took out both Priest and Leon Ruff. And Johnny Gargano was once again the new North American champion for NXT. And at the end of it, he was standing at the top of the ramp, and the Scream guy ripped off his mask to prove it was Austin Theory.
It's me, Austin.
That's funny shit.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that match. That match was actually rather entertaining. Leon Ruff has the chance to be a star for NXT. Not a big star, but he has a chance to actually be, rather successful for them. I think that he has a chance to develop, and I think he's going to be there.
One interview that came out this week, Damian Priest talked about how at first he was not super into this storyline with Leon Ruff, and just didn't buy in. He was being professional, but not like, he was not psyched about it. Then he actually got to know Leon Ruff, got to know his story, and he was like, yeah, you know what? I am all in on this dude. I'm all in on what we're doing with him. Let's take him up to the next level and, make it the best we can.
Priest is another one I like down
Yeah.
there. He's got that look. And I love the fact that, like you said on Wednesday, when he came out, and he was like, I'll fight you right now, Johnny. And then Karrion Kross came out. I still think that Karrion Kross coming out on Wednesday and attacking Damian Priest was just a statement to be like, yeah, I'm back, and what are you guys going to do about it? It eventually will lead to him having a match with Damian Priest. Maybe they just want to make sure that Karrion Kross is fully recovered from his surgery, and that maybe working with Damian Priest would be a good way for them to get a gauge.
Well, and it's been a few months since he's been in a match,
Yeah.
and putting him in the deep end, so to speak, of having a title match, and is his win there, is his timing there? Maybe this is a way to ease him in. So
I liked it.
So there was that, and then we had team. I got almost none of these matches right, ironically. Got Dexter Loomis right, and I got Johnny Gargano right, but I got all the rest of the matches wrong. Like, I didn't see how Team Candice was going to beat Team Shotzi. I thought that they were going to.
They were wrong on that.
And I thought, they wanted Team McAfee to go over. I got both those matches wrong, but, I think the way they told the story, though, one of the reasons why War Games kind of ended up going away was they talked about how it was predictable. You always had the heel team get the advantage, and have the 2-on-1, the 3-on-2, and so on and so forth. And they're like, well, how do you tell the story? The way you tell the story is what they did in the women's match. Even though the face women's team had the advantage of having the woman advantage, They figured out a way to not make the advantage an advantage.
Yep, because they basically kept Io Shirai out of the cage as long as they could, as she was the last person to enter the one for the women's thing. And like they locked it. Indy Hartwell ended up locking the cage up so that she couldn't get in there. And they told a great story in that. One of the takeaways I had was never, WWE, NXT, whoever it is that is listening, never, ever, ever let Shotzi Blackheart hit somebody with a chair again. It was terrible. The fact that it stood out that much for me that I'm bringing it up today is just incredible. It's just like she looked
Just
like
incredible.
she looked like she couldn't even lift the chair over her head to hit somebody with it. And it's like, I know that Shotzi Blackheart has a great reputation in the industry. A lot of people say that some of their best matches came against Shotzi Blackheart. It's not the steel chair. That's for damn sure. That's saying it.
Right.
So.
But overall, I like the story that they told here, and I was shocked that Team Candice won. But you know what? I'm glad. I'm happy when it's not so predictable that you're like.
Two people that I came away with from this match that I was rather impressed with in their performances in the match. Toni Storm really stepped up and I hate saying wonderful all the time. She had a great match. She looked good in the ring, and I like the fact that she's a part of the NXT, and I think that she has a chance to be a star for them and eventually make it to the main roster. But the fact that Raquel Gonzalez got the pin on the NXT Women's Champion, and I know that you don't like the NXT, the champions losing matches, but
this was
different, and I think that it's a way for them to actually build towards something, because I do think that with Raquel Gonzalez getting that victory, it looks like she's going to be one of the ones that's going to be in line to get a title shot at some point.
And the only minor critique I would have with this is that the last time we saw Raquel Gonzalez in a singles feud, she lost it.
Yes, true.
Now, they did stuff after the War Games match where this week on NXT we had Raquel Gonzalez. Who the heck did she beat? I think I have it written down somewhere here. She beat Shotzi Blackheart. And at the end of this, though, we ended up having Toni Storm come out, and then we had Rhea Ripley, and there was another stare down between Rhea and Raquel Gonzalez. So I'm wondering if we're going to get Raquel getting one over on Rhea Ripley before she ends up at Io Shirai. So.
Toni Storm is the modern day Trish Stratus. Interesting. The thing about her is I really don't like her facial mannerisms. If I had to find one, because I'm always that person, I can find my one flaw or my minor critique about somebody that I think in a negative way. And that's the one thing about Toni Storm is I just really don't like her facial mannerisms. They're not as bad as Bayley, but.
Right. We shall see. I thought that a couple of years ago when they were doing NXT UK, and I thought they're gonna make Toni Storm the face of this division, build the division around her, and Rhea Ripley turned my opinion of that entire thing. Rhea Ripley to me is the face of the division going forward. Not saying that Toni Storm will not have a good high spot in that crowd, but I think it's Rhea Ripley.
You need two people to kind of take over and lead that division, and I think those two have the capability of doing it.
Well, and are they going to keep them in NXT, or are they going to eventually get called up?
I think
to SmackDown and Raw. I
think that eventually we will get the rematch once again of Rhea Ripley versus Toni Storm. I mean, the two of them worked very well together. They had great matches in NXT UK. I think they have their one-off match in NXT, and I think that Rhea Ripley will be the one that ultimately, at some point in 2021, probably before WrestleMania, will get the call up to the main roster. And then Toni Storm will probably spend the next year down in NXT, and we'll eventually see her on the main roster probably 2022, is my guess. All right. And then in the main event, we had the men's War Games match, where the Undisputed Era went up against For the Brand. Solid match. You know what you're going to get out of the Undisputed Era. You know what you're going to get out of Pete Dunne. I was so happy to see our boy Oney Lorcan in the main event of an NXT takeover.
Yeah.
I love the fact that him and Danny Burch are tag team champions. I love seeing a healthy Pete Dunne out there, kicking ass and taking names. And Pat McAfee is the unsung hero of this match because of the fact that McAfee went out there and had himself another great match and another NXT takeover.
And had a moment where it's like you don't expect him to do that move from the top of the cage.
Right.
With the bit of training that we know he has, it's like, yeah, he was a professional football player, which obviously means even if he is a punter, that still means he is an elite athlete.
Yep.
So obviously he has athleticism about him, but like learning to flip is different than, and flipping and hitting into the right spot in the ring is way different than anything else.
If I told you in 2019 that Rob Gronkowski was going to be a massive flop in WWE and Pat McAfee was going to be one of the biggest stars in NXT, would you have believed me?
No, and one thing I'll say for Gronk, there were extenuating circumstances because his WWE career lasted about 2 months. Although McAfee's has only been a couple months longer, but he put himself in a better spot more quickly. So, yeah. Monsef, AEW this week had its moments of being weak, but in general, it was a fine show. The thing, like with Cody and Sting, was good to me. The thing with Shaq and Brandy was good to me, but yeah, there were a couple of things that were not great. But
My boy Orange Cassidy losing to the future GOAT of professional wrestling,
right,
the main event. And now MJF is a two-time ring bearer for the I forgot what the hell.
The Dynamite
The Dynamite Diamond, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that Orange Cassidy got that opportunity to fight MJF. It shows like what a difference, because you think about it, they had the thing last year where they had the Battle Royal. Last two people fight the following week. And MJF was in that match last year, but he fought Hangman Page. And they think very highly of Hangman Page. And so in a year's time, they looked at Orange Cassidy and said, all right, this guy is someone we can build towards the future. And I've been calling it, he's going to win the AEW title. And he's going to be the one that takes it from Omega, because MJF is going to take the title from Orange Cassidy.
Yeah.
The only way you can get a bigger pop for freaking Orange Cassidy is have him take the title from Omega. And the only way you can make MJF a bigger star and a bigger heel is if you take it away from the biggest baby face in AEW.
All right. I think we hit on just about everything here, except for a good, bad, and brainless.
Sorry.
And hiccups.
So what is your good for this week, Cousin Jay?
I'm actually going with the Drew McIntyre Sheamus storyline. I think in the end we're going to get Drew versus Sheamus for the title. But the way that they're playing on like the boys, but trying to develop distrust between them, and as much as McIntyre is like going, no, I know, hey, he and I are good. I think part of it is we're going to end up finding out, he has the blinders up because, hey, this has been his boy for the last 15 to 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
But what Sheamus wanted all along was the title one more time. So I love that.
I hate the fact that I have to do this, but I have to give two answers for my good for this week.
Of course.
I've been getting really good at just giving one answer. You got to admit that it's been a while.
We call that the Varner.
I know I'm going to Varner myself here, but you know what? I have to do it. And I had a favorite going in, and then then SmackDown happened last night. So my first good for this week is going to go to Pat McAfee first, obviously, for his performance at NXT TakeOver War Games. I mean, the fact, like you said, he did that freaking flip off the top of the cage. He was impressive in the ring, and I think that he just keeps getting better and better. And I just think it's I think he deserves it for that. But Roman Reigns last night on SmackDown, my God, like he this whole thing with him being the tribal chief, he is getting so much better on a week-to-week basis. I'm sorry, I had to give credit where credit was due to Roman Reigns. Because right now, Roman Reigns is on a whole different level than he's ever been on. And I have to respect where respect is due.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I had to give 2 answers this week. Because I felt like I would be disrespecting both gentlemen for their performances.
The tribal chief. Attack you.
Yeah, and I don't need a big dog pooping on my lawn. This dog does enough pooping on the lawn for everybody in this neighborhood.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, damn you.
Anyway,
so what's your bad for this week?
My bad for this week, I guess it wasn't necessarily like terrible, but it was. Why was Tommaso Ciampa going against Cameron Grimes? I know they kind of tried to explain it, but like to me, Ciampa is at this point at a different level than Grimes, and he's fighting somebody and going down to his level, because Grimes is like a comedy character and Ciampa isn't that. You know, if it ends up starting to pull the Grimes up from where he is, great, but I didn't see it. And I was like, it felt like a wasted time. So.
That's good. I like that answer.
Yeah?
Yeah? For me, my bad goes to Shotzi Blackheart and steel chair on Sunday. I'm sorry. I can't get that out of my mind. It's just the way that she was swinging that chair, the way she was. It looked so bad. And I don't know. I know that it's probably because I've been watching this product. You know, I've been watching professional wrestling for the better part of 3 decades. And it's like I pick up on things a lot more than I ever would when I was a kid. And it's like, you know, I have to nitpick, but I had to put it out there.
Yeah. Speaking of Grimes, are they trying to make him babyface? Just curious. I don't know. I think Cameron Grimes right now is just Cameron Grimes, where like he does stuff and he faces, you know, heels. He faces faces. So I think he's just Cameron Grimes, and he's not really good or bad. He just is. Yeah.
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 And what is your brainless for this week? And I bet you we're going to agree on this one.
Probably. If all these other main roster wrestlers are not going down, are going down to the Performance Center to get themselves fixed, why isn't Nia Jax?
It's absolutely brainless. It really is brainless.
Why isn't Nia Jax? How many people has she injured?
She almost killed 2 people.
So.
And my big thing was, and like I know that a lot of people overreact, and I'll tell you, and especially wrestling fans, we tend to overreact a lot. But somebody was like, "Why is it that they're sending Keith Lee down to the Performance Center to get training, and Nia Jax still has a job?" And like for the most part, I'm like, "Damn!" I'm like, "That's a little harsh," but I agree with them. I don't understand why she even has a job, let alone the fact that these people have, you know, this, that, and the other thing going for them.
Right.
But
yeah. Cameron Grimes, the illegitimate son of Jimmy Garvin. Jimmy Jam.
Oh
He's a free bird.
Oh man, he kind of does look like.
He could be.
I don't know. I mean, Steph, we have to figure out what they're going to do with Cameron Grimes. He's kind of played this chicken shit heel role pretty well. I like to see him as a face. I'm always one of those types that I have to see somebody as a heel and as a face, and just the way it goes. Oh, one thing that we forgot to mention from Monday Night Raw. Jackson Ryker, actually, no, it wasn't Monday Night Raw. It was on Main Event this week. Jackson Ryker, who has kind of been gone for a few months because of some posts he made that WWE was not very proud of on Twitter, has been kind of gone, kind of forgotten, just like Wesley Blake and Steve Cutler. And now the Cutler and Blake are with Baron Corbin, known as the Knights something or other. I know the Knights of the
whatever.
Something stupid. And like the two of them with like clean shaven, like Blake or it's Blake. It wasn't Blake, right? Wesley Blake just looks so weird without a beard now. But Jackson Ryker has been seen with Elias when they were on Main Event together. And then Ryker came out and tweeted, he goes, "I will walk with Elias."
The goat.
So
All right.
I forgot I had to bring that up.
The Knights of the Lone Wolf. Actually, I like that. That's a good name.
I like that. Thank you.
Good name. So, all right.
I think that's everything.
Yeah.
So whether you are a first-time watcher or somebody who has been on here watching for a long period of time, I know most of you have been are like continuous fans, and we do appreciate your support. But if you like what you've seen, make sure you like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Periscope, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to us on YouTube at the letter T, the letter H, the letter E, the letter F, the letter N, MARKS, the F and Marks. If you like, follow, and subscribe to us, we will do the same back. Although I don't know if that's how the subscribe thing works on YouTube, but either way,
We can.
It sounds. Oh, we can. All right, perfect. Then yeah, we will do that back. It's always been our mantra.
And also, if you are interested in our wonderful T-shirts, $20 will get you one, and you just have to email us your size at theffandmarks@gmail.com. And
We accept,
also,
I was about to say we accept Cash App, Venmo, and PayPal.
all right. And also, every week, obviously, we're on the All Elite Marks page going live, and make sure you set up the notifications so you know when we go live, and you could share in with the conversation. So,
And like we said, next Saturday we will not be doing the podcast because
I'm moving.
and he's going to get about as much help from the brainless one as he could possibly expect, which is, well, actually, no, I'm actually a hell of a person.
Hey,
As long as
you know me, I'm just going to be carrying the whole bed up.
Well, yeah, well, I was kind of telling, I think it was telling Jeff, I'm like, I know what's going to happen. I'm like, Jay's going to come out with the mattress and Archie's going to come out with the box spring.
Yeah.
And Petey's going to come out with like a pillow.
Right. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. We will probably, as the brainless one said, we might post a short video with our picks for TLC next week, but that might be about it.
And just to let you guys know, I know we said it last week, but I want to reiterate, when we do return on December 26th, will be the 5th annual Marquee Awards and our 3rd Hall of Fame induction class.
Yes.
So we will be having that show. We'll get all spruced up, and I'm thinking for that show, something needs to make a comeback.
I believe you are 100% correct.
Because it just wouldn't be the end of the year award show without FM Marks Hall of Famer Billy D. Williams sponsored drink, the Colt 45.
That's right. So,
And I don't remember the last time we had a Colt 45, so that's going to be real interesting too.
yeah. Well, Lloyd is asking predictions for Final Resolution. I actually have, I don't know what any of the matches on Final Resolution.
I know that Carl Anderson is fighting one of the guys from the north.
Right.
I think
I'm assuming Rich Swann is having a match.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I think that's everything.
Wait.
What?
There's one more thing.
What's that, Cousin Bobby?
That's because today, December 12th. Wow, that was.
Oh, this is sad. It turned off.
It's a very, very sad day.
Oh.
Anyway, that's because today, on December 12th of 2020, and on the astonishing 1,955 days, FM Marks Hall of Famer is still alive in the 2015 Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
Yes, Petey, that's the cue that the show is over.
Monsef, it is Colt 45. Colt with a T. Colt 45 is a malt beer, malt beverage that Billy D. Williams, a.k.a. Lando MFN Calrissian, used to actually be a sponsor for back in the day. And actually, a couple years ago, he showed up back on Colt 45. But the Colt 45 will show up again in a couple weeks.
And no disrespect to Juicy J, but he's not Billy D. Williams.
Right. How long before Curtis Axel shows up in AEW?
If he hasn't shown up yet, I don't think he's going to. I think we have a better chance of seeing him return to WWE than anything else.
Yeah, I agree with that. So,
Anyway, so for episode 202 of the FMR's podcast,
I'm Jay.
and I am the brainless one.
Make sure you mark out.
With your guac out. Oh my God, you
Wait, look.
Oh my God, now my brain, you just killed off whatever's left of brain cells I had.
Yeah. All right.
With your guac out.
We'll catch you up in a couple weeks, everybody. Have a good one.
Keep looking on our Facebook page for any announcements. I have something in store for that. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. See you, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
Yeah.